Hello and welcome to Chapter 4, Section 1. We're going to be working with the distributive property. And in the past we have learned to evaluate numerical expressions, but we've done it using addition and multiplication. Today we're going to expand on that idea and continue learning more about that with the distributive property. We will write equivalent numerical expressions and we will write equivalent algebraic expressions. Remember, an expression means there's not an equal sign involved. So you start with equivalent expressions. Basically, those are equal ways of saying the same thing. And the distributive property, so let's talk about this property real quick. Using symbols, you have A times the quantity B plus C. Well, remember, there's multiplication going on here between the A and the parentheses. So you've got A times B. This plus sign just comes straight over. Then you have A times C. Okay, so this is one expression, and this is an equivalent second way of writing that expression. Over here, we're doing the same thing. Notice it's subtraction this time, so the subtraction sign is brought over. The operation taking place between A and the parentheses is multiplication, so you'll notice that over here you have A times B minus the A times C. And then they've given you examples using numbers down here demonstrating those exact same principles. So take a second and look that over, make sure you understand. Okay, moving on. Our first example, we're going to use the distributive property to write 4 times the quantity 5 plus 8 as an equivalent expression. And then we will evaluate the expression. So there's two parts here to these instructions. Make sure when you're doing the homework that you understand if there are two parts that you have to answer. First off, you're going to write this as an equivalent expression, and then finally you will evaluate it. So we start with 4 times the quantity 5 plus 8. Distributing the 4 through the parentheses, you end up with 4 times 5 plus 4 times 8. So now you have your equivalent expression here. This is part 1. And now we're going to start simplifying. You got 4 times 5, which is 20. 4 times 8, 32. Your grand total there now is going to be 52. So this is the evaluated part, the answer to the evaluated part, and this is your answer to write this as an equivalent expression. We're going to do the same thing now, except for notice it's subtraction, but it's the exact same principle. Once again, there are two parts to this. You've got to write it as an equivalent expression and then finally evaluate it. Okay, so to begin, we distribute the 2 through the parentheses. You're going to have 6 times 2 minus the 9 times 2. Notice it's still subtraction. And then simplifying, you get 12 minus 18. Or the answer is negative 6. So once again, there's two parts to this answer. Here's the first part, 6 times 2 minus 9 times 2. And finally, your final answer, or your evaluated portion of the answer, is negative 6. Okay, why don't you try this one on your own? Notice once again, there are two parts to the answer, the equivalent expression and then the evaluated answer. So notice as you're looking through here, here's equivalent expressions in the first part. You get to the semicolon, and then there's the evaluated answer. So take a second, look that over, and see if you can figure out whether it's choice A, B, C, or D. You should have selected choice B. Notice that it is 9 times the 3 plus the 3 times the 2. The 3 was distributed through the parentheses, and when you simplify that, you do get 33. Here's another one. Notice this time it's subtraction, but the same concepts. Write it as an equivalent expression, then evaluate. Notice you have your equivalent expressions first, and then behind the semicolon, you have the evaluated answers. And this time you should have chose letter A as your answer. Okay, now here's a real-world example. You have a community center. It's offering a canoeing day trip. The canoeing fee is $8 per person. The cost of the food is an additional $39 per person. They would like for you to find the total cost for a family of 4. We're going to begin making sure you understand the problem. You know the cost of the fee per person, and you know the cost of the food per person. What you need to do is find the total cost for a family of 4. You can use the distributive property in mental math to find the total cost for the family of 4. To find the cost mentally, find 4 times 80 plus 39, or 4 times 80 plus 4 times 39. Okay, using the distributive property here, we distribute the 4 through the parentheses. So it's 4 times 80 plus 4 times 39. You get 320 plus 156. The total is 476. I hope your family enjoys canoeing for $476. Okay, you can check your results by evaluating $4 or 4 times 120 and you get 480. This answer does seem reasonable. And now it's your turn. The cost of a movie ticket is $7 and the cost of a box of popcorn is $2. Write 2 equivalent expressions to find the total cost for a family of 5 to go to the movies if each member of the family gets a box of popcorn. Then find the total cost. Take a minute and work through that problem. And you should have selected choice A. 5 members in the family times the cost to get into the movie plus the 5 members of the family times the cost of a box of popcorn. That's equivalent to saying 5 times the quantity, 7 plus 2, and the cost for the family of 5 would be $45 for an evening out at the movies. Okay, now we're going to move on to evaluating algebraic expressions using the distributive property. So notice, it's the same setup. The only thing different here is now you have an x instead of a number. But the concept is the same. You're going to take that 2 and you're going to pass it through the parentheses, so you end up with 2x plus 2 times 4. Remember, the coefficient 2 here in front of the x means 2 times x. And simplifying, you get 2x plus 8. Okay, so here's your equivalent algebraic expression. And then it's simplified right here. Okay, same concept. Again, you have the quantity y plus 3 times 6. We're going to distribute the 6 through the parentheses. Get 6y plus 18. Okay, now it's your turn to try this one on your own. You should have selected choice D, 4m plus 28. Okay, same concept now. We have the quantity p plus 3 times 5. And the choice here is B, 5p plus 15. Okay, now we're moving into algebraic expressions, and this time we have subtraction, but it's still the same concepts. You're going to take 4 and you're going to multiply it through the parentheses. Now they like to rewrite this with the plus -2, which you guys understand. We did that in the chapter 2 a lot. So you got 4x plus 4 times -2, 4x plus a -8, and then you could just write it as 4x minus 8. Now, if you want to skip this part right here where you're rewriting it, that is fine, and just you could easily go down here to 4x minus 8. If you understand that, that is fine. Okay, why don't you give this one a try? Let's be careful this time, because notice it's a negative number that we're distributing through the parentheses. Once again, they have elected to rewrite this subtraction as adding a -3, which is fine. So we get -2n plus a -2 times a -3. Remember, the sign in front of the number here is part of that number. So you end up with -2n, negative times a negative, of course, is positive, so you end up with +6. Okay, once again, if you can look at this and just distribute and come up with that answer and not need these steps in between, that's fine. If you need these steps in between, then go ahead and write those out until you feel very confident with the process. Okay, now let's go ahead and you do the work on this one. I'll give you a second to figure it out. Okay, and there you go. It's 2a minus 18. Okay, I'm just going to caution you here. Remember, this is a negative 7 in front when you begin to distribute. And your choice this time should have been negative 7b plus 21. Notice you had a negative 7 times a negative 3. Negative times a negative will be positive. And that's it. Please go back to my big campus and see what else I have in store for you.